Hey everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Transit Tangents. My name's Chris.
And I'm Lewis.
And today we are getting into what we are labeling as the top 5 transit projects or programs that are at risk under the current Trump administration.
Yeah, and I mean, there are way more than this 5. We just kind of picked 5 that we thought were interesting. So as you're watching, if you have some that you think should have made the list, definitely let us know down below. But yeah, these are going to be kind of interesting to go through.
Yep, and we want to reiterate, we're probably going to say this a couple times in a couple episodes. We did this in the last episode. We realize things are pretty awful right now with the Trump administration, and there's a lot of scary things going on. We know that this is not the worst of the things that are out there. There's detentions and all this other stuff happening. But again, we're trying not to be overly political here, so we are going to keep it to a transportation focus.
Yeah. With that, let's jump into number 1 on our list, which is a topic we've discussed quite a few times on the show so far. But it's been a while, so I think it's good to revisit it, which is the MTA congestion pricing, as well as some general funding potential issues that are arising.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump into the new issue first.
Okay.
So there's been a fight now with the Trump administration over funding for MTA and the threatening to remove federal funding from the nation's largest transit agency over safety concerns on the subway. There were a couple of high-profile safety incidents, people being pushed in front of a train, being attacked, things that, while nobody supports them, nobody wants them to happen, things that also just happen in these types of spaces.
In the United States.
And in the United States. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, these things generally, they happen, and there may have been a small uptick during sort of the COVID, like just after post-COVID years.
I also think that a lot of it is just being overly visualized now.
Absolutely.
Because everyone has a phone in their pocket, obviously, and is recording this stuff. But a lot of conservatives right now are trying to take any opportunity they can to highlight issues in cities in general.
Yep. But the Sean Duffy, our least favorite transportation secretary so far, has picked up this fight with the MTA, and they are trying to address these safety concerns, and they set a deadline for March 31st, which has passed, by the way, but they set a deadline by March 31st for the MTA to come up with a comprehensive plan to tackle issues such as assaults on passengers and transit workers, fare evasion, and dangerous activities like subway surfing.
So, I mean, what's crazy with this, and like they've done this with New York, but other places as well, and like these agencies don't want their systems to be having crimes happen in them, of course. New York has stepped up significantly over the last few years, adding, and there are different strategies you can use here. You can criticize the different strategies, but there are police at most subway stations now, like all the time. They're riding the trains. MTA has their own kind of folks who are out monitoring and doing this sort of stuff.
They've added 15,000 cameras to the system.
Right. So
you're always being watched. The MTA was really good about pointing out in their response to the Department of Transportation that there's been a 40% reduction in crime within the MTA system, and that's 40% reduction from pre-COVID levels.
Right.
So not even there's a little bit of the COVID spike, but now we're 40% below the pre-COVID level.
Right. This has also been happening quite a bit, and I really appreciate his response, which is why I'm calling it out in Washington, D.C. for the WMATA system. The CEO of the WMATA system, Randy Clark, is so good PR-wise. He's good at operating a transit system, but also PR-wise is just really doing a good job here. He actually met with Sean Duffy yesterday from when we're recording this. So he met with Sean Duffy on April 17th to discuss the WMATA system, and security was one of the options there. And their CEO was really smart in pointing out, listen, crime has been going down every year in the system for the last 7 years. We're currently at a 7-year low for crime in the WMATA system. Things are all trending in the right direction. So, while crime in general is bad, of course, no one's saying crime is good, these agencies are doing what they can to try to tackle it. Is there room for improvement? Of course, but there's always room for improvement, and these agencies are doing it.
And should you be threatening billions in funding? No.
Especially when it impacts, they pretend, as we kind of transition into congestion pricing here, they pretend to care about the, working class folks and whatnot, and helping them get around. Cutting money from the MTA will hurt working class folks. Yes. Working class folks who live in New York City do not drive cars. Nope. They ride the subway.
Right.
Period.
Yep. It is unique in the country for that, and
Yeah.
that should be part of the consideration of the administration, but it doesn't seem to be. But transitioning into the other side of the MTA topic is the congestion pricing. It is a model of tolling all vehicles going into Lower Manhattan. So any part of Manhattan that is south of 60th Street, or if you're entering through the bridges and tunnels, there is a usage charge for driving on those streets. This took off in January of this year and has had really good results.
Totally. In the I'm quoting here from New York Magazine graphic here. In the first 100 days of congestion pricing, complaints about honking dropped 70%, rush hour delays at the Holland Tunnel dropped 65%, and travel time through it fell 48%. The number of cars entering Lower Manhattan fell by 6 million compared to a year earlier. Traffic-related injuries in the congestion zone dropped by half. Metro North ridership rose 8%. And importantly, and this was a lot of doomer content about New York saying congestion pricing was going to hurt businesses, visitor counts in business improvement districts increased by 1.5 million year over year.
Yeah.
So
Manhattan's doing fine.
Yes, and on every metric is doing better. Add on top of this the other benefits here. You've got improved air quality, the safety stuff. I mean, the number of traffic-related injuries in the congestion zone dropping by half.
Yep.
That's amazing. And like this says traffic-related injuries. That in a lot of cases means pedestrians and people on bikes getting hit by cars.
Yes.
Dropping. So I mean, this is having amazing effects both economically, reducing traffic for the folks who still do want to drive in. You have faster drive times, and it's also adding more funding to the MTA, which I saw the MTA announce literally today that they're increasing bus services on a whole wide variety of lines to improve bus service so that people are waiting less because of the revenue they're generating from congestion pricing.
And this revenue is on track to generate around $500 million by the end of this year. That revenue then gets invested back into improving the tracks and safety and timing on the trains and bus service, as you said. Accessibility. How many, if you've been to New York, how many of the elevators are broken down? Like they never work. So, you
or
have
if you're
all of
lucky
this
if the
money.
station even has an elevator.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all this money going into the accessibility side of it and like all of these improvements. But the Trump administration doesn't like the congestion pricing. They have claimed that it hurts working class New Yorkers.
Because every working class New Yorker lives in Lower Manhattan and drives their own car, and they can afford to park a car in Lower Manhattan and drive in and out. They totally don't take the subway.
Yeah. And a lot of New Yorkers support this program. Trump administration does not, and they have set multiple deadlines for the city to end congestion pricing. Those deadlines have come and passed. They've been extended. The head of the MTA has said, don't worry about the deadlines. We will continue operating congestion pricing. Even Kathy Hochul has said the cameras are going to stay on. The tolling's going to stay on. She's met with Trump twice to tell him to drop it. So we'll see what happens. At the moment, it's still going.
Through at least, I think there's like a court date in October is kind of what's next. So we'll kind of keep an eye on this one.
Moving into our number 2 on the list is the California high-speed rail. Now, we've done a whole episode about high-speed rail, and we talked a lot about California. So take a look at that episode.
We do owe it its own episode in general. I think California high-speed rail should get its own episode. So
absolutely. But just a little bit of a recap. California high-speed rail was first approved in 2008 with the goal of connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles with a bullet train that would take you less than 3 hours to get between the two cities. It has experienced years of delays. Costs have gone up. It was initially planned to be built for...
There's a clip that's been going around from Gavin Newsom where he was looking really young with no gray hairs or anything. I forget what year it is. And he was saying that you'd be riding on it by like 2020, I'm pretty sure. But it's gone through a lot.
Costs have skyrocketed. We know this. It's a very difficult terrain to build through. There's all of these reasons why.
Lawsuits over environmental, environmental concerns. The EIS statements for this to put together, the environmental impact statements for them were immense when you're covering this much ground, especially going through more environmentally sensitive areas and whatnot. It's been just the definition of like over bureaucratized. I don't know. New word for you.
Yeah.
It's been a lot.
New words brought to you by Lewis.
Yes.
So fast forward to this era, Trump is now in his crosshairs, and this isn't the first time. They canceled about $1 billion in federal funding during his first term. That was reinstated during the Biden term, and now things have escalated in this new term.
Yeah, so the administration has formally launched a review of the project, targeting $4 billion in federal funding. Sean Duffy actually went to California and had a press conference about this, where he was shouted at by protesters for a lot of it. We'll insert a little clip of that right here.
And you know what? You're going to have people who love fraud, who love waste, who love trains to nowhere. But all of us up here, we do not love fraud, waste, and abuse.
His quote from the press conference: "We're not going to shovel taxpayer money into a bottomless pit of bureaucratic mismanagement."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, to pretend that it has been managed well, though, there has definitely been some mismanagement, don't get me wrong, but you want to cut the funding for it now?
Right.
It's being built.
Yep.
Like to say that there's no tracks being laid, there's no progress is incorrect.
Yep.
The project is making forward progress.
It also still has popular approval in California.
Yeah, which is what matters. They are footing the majority of the bill for this, so it's definitely interesting. I do know that they recently appointed a new CEO to California High Speed Rail. Hopefully, and that is a sign of they're actively trying to improve. They know that there is room for improvement, but to try to kill this project while it's very well underway, unlike Texas Central, which we talked about in a previous episode, this one is more than shovel ready.
Yep.
It is literally, there are shovels in the ground,
Yep.
there are tracks being laid, there are bridges being built. To stop it now makes no sense.
Yep. Right now they're focusing on the 171-mile segment between Merced and Bakersfield, hopefully opening by 2033. They've spent $14 billion. 10.5 of that has come from the state of California. Mm-hmm. They need about $7 billion more to keep construction on track. It creates 15,000 jobs. They've built 50 major structures for this. Like you said, it is going. So to threaten to remove funding now, it's really frustrating to see that.
Absolutely. So we'll kind of keep folks posted on that as well. I don't know what to say about that one. I'd like to say that I'm optimistic they're going to figure it out. I think that they might need to figure it out without more federal funding. And I don't know. If any state has the resources to do that, it's probably California. I think there's some lawsuits potentially getting involved here too. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. We will do a California high-speed episode in the near future.
Yeah. We're going to jump right back into this episode in just a second. But first, if you have not liked this video, go ahead and do so. Also, leave a comment. We love reading all of them and respond to as many as we can. And be sure that you are subscribed so that you catch every episode as they come out.
Please share this with your friends. And if you don't have time to watch YouTube videos in the future, you can catch us on any of the podcast platforms that are out there. Just be sure to leave us a rating and give us a comment.
The third project on our list is fairly close to home for us. The city we've been to in our San Antonio Using Only Public Transit episode is the San Antonio Green Line BRT project. Mm-hmm. Now, this one is literally already being constructed, and it is a 12-mile BRT line that will connect from the San Antonio Airport in the north through downtown and to a transit center down in the south. It will actually include a little over 4 miles of actual dedicated center-running BRT lanes that are kind of separated. You're gonna have off-board fare collection. You're gonna have off-board fare collection. A lot of things that you'd like to see in a BRT system to kind of keep them moving. If you are interested in a cool BRT project that is just now open, actually, I'm just thinking about this. We did an episode on it a few weeks back. The Minneapolis BRT, Minneapolis-St. Paul kind of BRT stuff going on. You can go check that out. The Gold Line. Thank you. Also, with this project in San Antonio, you'll have frequencies of every 10 to 15 minutes, which for transit here in Texas is pretty good. Gold standard. I would
and
say
they'd be adding 26 bus stations across the city, which is a huge addition.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, this is another project with some federal funds that are being tied up at the moment. Yeah,
as you said, some of the construction's already started. They started moving utilities in 2024, and now they were expecting to break ground in early 2025 with operations starting in August of 2027.
Right.
In total, the entire project was estimated at $446 million, which is a lot, but not crazy numbers when we talk about transit projects.
Right.
Via the agency in San Antonio, they secured a $268 million grant from the federal government to help this project along. It was the largest federal investment in VIA in their history.
Yeah, and for those of you not familiar with San Antonio, there is no rail system at all. It is only buses. Now,
largest city in the U.S. without rail.
Yeah, they have a ton of buses, and they actually ran pretty well in our experience when we were there, at least inside of the first highway ring. From what we were talking with folks about, the further out you get, unsurprisingly, the worse the service generally gets. But so, investing in real BRT like this is a huge step for San Antonio. In reading more about this, it seems like some of the reasons that the money is being flagged is literally it's being caught up in some of the DEI type stuff right now. A lot of grants for transit projects do kind of include that sort of language because it was a major focus, especially under the Biden administration, making sure the money is being spent equitably and all of this sort of stuff. So included in all of these grant proposals for the most part is all of that language. So this might not be the only, and I mean, we'll talk more about a few more later, but this might not be the only project that's going to be caught up in that.
Also really frustrating because, I mean, what is transit? I mean, transit has a lot of DEI focus. You are connecting usually historically disenfranchised parts of cities to the main part of this, the main core. People who generally use transit are those who may not have a car, and whether that's for income reasons or personal choice, you have to be able to serve all of the community and provide equity to all of the community. So of course, if they are doing their search bar, investigations into the grant, then they're going to find this. What's also the most frustrating about this is that this grant was already awarded.
Right.
Which is, disbursements should be happening.
Right. And that's, that is an important point to that is like it was already allocated, like they already went through their approval process and now they're trying to claw the money back, which not a great look, making, kind of like why would anyone trust the federal government about anything if money that the federal government allocates, the federal government actually then later goes, actually, I don't know about that, and then tries to pull it back. To your point too on the, like, especially in a city like San Antonio, there are very few people who are intentionally wanting to take transit there, because San Antonio is such a car-centric place. We did meet with one of those groups there, Strongtown San Antonio, who is doing a lot of work. There are some folks in that group who are psyched about using an e-bike and using VIA when need be and choose to live car-free. But the vast majority of folks riding the bus in San Antonio is not by choice. It's because, they either can't afford a car, they can't drive a car, whatever their reason may be. So, it's so important, especially in a city like that.
Yeah, agreed. So number 4 on our list is the Virginia Railway expansion. This is sort of a collection of projects in the Virginia area, mostly centered around Washington, D.C. But the TRV program is an effort to enhance passenger and freight rail capacity along the I-95 corridor. Now this project has, again, it's kind of a lot of projects that are in the works. You have the Long Bridge expansion, which is one of the primary rail bridges over the Potomac. It goes right into Washington, D.C. We've ridden it when we did our D.C. in a day.
Yeah, some of the WMATA train lines, one connecting to Reagan Airport, also to other destinations throughout Virginia. So yeah,
absolutely. It passes literally right beside the Jefferson Memorial. So you have a lot of traffic going through here. It's also one of the vital transportation links in the region, and at its peak operation, it's hitting like 95% capacity. Yeah. So they're on the brink of being over capacity on this, and it's going to really create more of a bottleneck. So that is a huge critical infrastructure project that needs to get done. You also have the I always say this poorly, but the L'Enfant station improvements. So this is one of the stations in the DC area, but it's one of the busiest VRE stations, and they need to increase the service there. And then also third track additions in multiple counties, including Prince William, Stafford, and Spotsylvania counties to improve their reliability and service.
And in December 2023, the VPRA, the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, secured a $729 million federal grant. And this is currently what is up in the air right now. So this is not a small amount of money. And it's affecting several different projects here, as you outlined. Again, I mean, when you've got these like rail bridges at 95, 97% capacity in our nation's capital, also basically, like, it feels like these are the sort of investments that should definitely be being made. And it's just yet another thing kind of caught up in the current chaos surrounding all of these projects in the Trump administration.
Yeah, and you can have advocates who are against things like passenger rail, whatever. We have these arguments all the time, but this is also impacting freight rail.
Right.
So this isn't just about passenger rail, it's about total rail connectivity in this region. So these grants, they do more than just support, the liberal mobility utopia.
Yes.
So with all this up in the air, Virginia, with a couple other, they're working with a couple other government agencies to try to find additional funding that can be used for these projects and to get them done. They're also looking at other funding mechanisms. So this is, again, one that we'll kind of keep an eye on and see if anything else comes up in the works. But I would call that Long Bridge double tracking, that Long Bridge expansion, definitely be in my top 5 critical transportation projects that the Trump administration is currently threatening.
Totally. And this last one doesn't feel as exactly like a public transit project, but it is a different type of transit project. And we wanted to include it because it's something we've talked about in the past before. So this is the highway cap and stitch funding in the city of Austin here where we live. But this is also affecting other cities as well who received money with the Reconnecting Communities grant. The city of Austin was awarded $105 million from the federal government last year for this project, which would go towards the CAP project in downtown Austin. There are a few caps being added on I-35. We've talked about I-35 in the past. They're currently expanding it through downtown Austin, adding basically 3 additional lanes in each direction, making the scar through the city even wider.
Funny, there's no threat to that project.
There's no threat to that project so far.
They've already bulldozed half of the buildings they were going to tear down, and they're about to start demolishing the upper decks on their highway.
It's a little sad to see some of the I mean, a lot of stuff is it's going to be an ugly couple of years in Austin while that project goes underway, amongst other projects going on in the city at the same time. But anyway, the $105 million is being spent for the Cesar Chavez to kind of 4th Street highway cap area. The city has plans to do some sort of park on top of it. They're kind of still dialing in exactly what would go there. And if it's actually even going to happen. Initially we did an episode about highway caps. It was supposed to be voted on in December, and then tech stock got delayed, so it got pushed back to March. And then with this, it's now pushed back even further. It's
pushed back to May, I think. And so it just keeps getting, the football keeps getting kicked down the field, but we'll see what happens.
I wasn't expecting a football reference from you. Sorry. Continue.
I grew up in the South. One of the reasons why this keeps getting kicked down the road is that the project has ballooned to about $1.4 billion. A lot of that is cost increase, just post-COVID cost increase. The city of Austin, they have to come up with a $45 million match to actually accept the grant money from the federal government. So there's a lot up in the air with this. We want to see this project happen. We want to see things like the Reconnecting Communities grant, things like the Neighborhood Access and Equity grant program. We want to see these things succeed because there are areas of the country that were just completely demolished and divided by highways, and this is a great opportunity to reconnect those neighborhoods. Also, it's a great opportunity to take what would typically be a dead space in your city and create a vibrant, plaza, playground, city market, whatever on top of it. And we've seen great examples of this across the country.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it's important to note here too, like, I have some qualms in general. I mean, we've talked about this further at length in our Caps and Stitches episode. And if you want to have an interesting conversation about Caps and Stitches, you should talk to Cutter from our previous episode earlier this year. He and I have had some very lengthy discussions about it, and they won me over on some of it, but I still think that like the downtown caps should happen, but $1.4 billion something to do caps all the way up, further, north of downtown, that starts to feel like a lot of money that the city probably could allocate better elsewhere. The only other qualm I have with this is that like this is a Reconnecting Communities grant that is literally being used to essentially support a highway widening project, not a not something that is like really mending wounds and whatnot. It's like, sure, we'll have a cap for a few blocks here, but like we're gonna have a wider highway through the rest of the city. So I have my fair share of qualms with them. I do think that a downtown highway cap would be a major improvement in Austin. I'm less sold compared to you on some of the more northern ones, but you can go back to our previous episode if you want to learn more about that kind of element to this. Yeah.
So we'll continue to keep an eye on this. We'll keep you informed. But those are our sort of top 5 sort of transit initiatives or transportation projects that we think are sort of at risk with the current administration. There's other notable mentions in there. We had the Texas Central, which we did in a previous episode. We should probably talk about this in a future episode, but Trump administration taking over the revitalization of the Penn Station in New York. A lot of interesting stuff there, so take a look at it.
Totally. And I mean, some of these, the Penn Station thing, like I think you had said before, it's like Kathy Hochul came out and was like, great, like that's less funding burden on the MTA to kind of make this happen. So like some of these could end up being okay. I also have to mention like our local project here, Project Connect. At this stage in 2026 is when they would have been really like submitting their final application for, I believe it's the New Starts program, which would require, like half of Project Connect essentially would be coming from federal funding. I don't want to be a downer, but like I'm pretty skeptical that that's going to happen, especially when you look at like all of the documentation that ATP has put together has been, following what the New Starts program is asking for, which includes a whole bunch of like DEI related content. Like, I mean, there's sections about like equity and race and income and like why, how this is, all of that stuff's going to get flagged.
I'd say you just take the Word document and you control and replace all mentions of equity with corporate investment.
But yeah, I do think that they need to reframe a lot of, there's still some time to do this, but like I'm still pretty nervous about it.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we'll keep you informed, posted on what is happening with Project Connect and other things as the Trump administration continues on with some of these grant freezes. But that is our list of the top 5 plus some honorable mentions there, or notable mentions, maybe not honorable. If you have your own list, please share those in the comments. Let us know what you think about this list. If you have any opinions about the freezes on these grants or the risks to these programs. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
And if you haven't liked this video already, please consider doing so. It helps us out quite a bit. Also, just subscribing is a big thing. Send it to your friends, whatever it may be. But without further ado, thank you all so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your Transit Tangents Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm saving that dough. Public transit's where it's at. Watch me go.